Well, good afternoon, everyone. I should be live here. Yeah, it looks like we're live and in charge here. All is good. Yeah, we are good. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be playing around with some networking stuff this afternoon. Let me go live on Amazon real quick here. All right, we are live. So the big thing we're doing today, let's wait for some folks to come in, is we are going to be playing around with the Unifi. Do they have it on the box? Yeah, Unifi 6 Lite. So I'm going to be replacing the AC access point that I have in my ceiling with this new one. And we'll see what's in the box here when we do the unboxing. And then we're going to run some speed tests on the network to compare what the AC Lite here will get versus, the Unifi 6 here will get versus the AC Lite that I have already. So that is the game plan. And I think we got our usual crowd shuffling in, as the great Billy Joel once said. Let me turn on my chat thing here, get that going. All right, so yeah, it's going to be a fun, nerdy excursion today. We have a lot of nerdy stuff to do. And I just got to get my vMix social here functioning properly. So bear with me for a minute here until I can get that up and running. And then we'll get cooking. There it goes. I think we should be pulling some in now. I'm just trying to pull in all of your chats. Yes, we got 5 coming in now. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So let me start off with some greetings, and then we'll start messing around with stuff. That's the plan here. Now, if you're watching on Amazon, this particular device is not yet available on Amazon, but you can get the Unifi hardware on Amazon. There's a lot of different items there, and we'll see how it all comes together. This is a brand new product, mostly for Unifi. I bought this, by the way, so this is not a freebie. So the goal here, and we have some folks. Just want to say hello to some folks. We have Ugur, Romerick, Arif, Ayan. It's the evening for Romerick. Awesome. It is the afternoon here, about 2 o'clock. Finn is here. Nimble is curious about these. William Wilkinson is here as well. And yeah, I'm curious about how Wi-Fi 6 is going to do too. So what I've got on my desk, you can't see it. I'll put it up here. So our test device is going to be this brand new MacBook Air, which has the Wi-Fi 6 on it. So this will give us an idea as to what kind of speeds we can see. Because if the new MacBook Air with Wi-Fi 6 doesn't see a huge difference, then it may be something that you might not need it, but we'll see. I have not heard. Everyone wants the latest and greatest technology, but do you need it? That's the question. So one of the things that I like about the Unifi access points, and you can see the one I have in my ceiling right here, is that they're relatively inexpensive. They have decent range. David's Devices is here on Amazon, by the way. They have decent range, and what's nice about these, though, and the way the system works, and I would say the best way to describe the Unifi system is that it is an enterprise system that is designed for smaller operations. So you get a lot of the enterprise features, but it doesn't cost all that much, but you have a lot of flexibility and configuration. And as David's Devices says in the chat, once you get these things set up, they just work. So my network, I've been running Unifi now for probably 6 or 7 years. Yeah, about that long. And it's been great. I used to use it at my old job. They're solid products. And if you talk to IT people, some people love them and some people hate them. Because, they're, especially the Unifi stuff, it's kind of bleeding edge at what you can do feature-wise for the cost. But once it's up and running, it's been great. I love it. So that's what we're going to be playing around with today. So we're going to start with a speed test with my existing Wi-Fi. And then we're going to unbox the new one here. And then we're going to hook this up and run the speed test again and see what the differences are. That's kind of the game plan. Now, I've got some comments here that I'll address. I'm going to address this in the video too. And actually, I forgot to print out my notes that I wanted to cover in the video today. So let me go print these out real quick. You might be saying, Lon, you print out stuff? Why is that? And the reason is that paper doesn't go to sleep, right? If I have it on the screen and my computer goes to sleep, it screws up my workflow, and it's like, So Zachary Webb brings up a good point, because one of the notes that I have on my list of things to talk about during the video that I'm going to record while we stream today is that the Wi-Fi 6 Lite only has a 1 gig NIC. And what's interesting is they have a more powerful Wi-Fi 6 unit coming out soon, also only with 1 gig NIC. Why, right? Like, you would think you'd want multi-gigabit for a multi-gigabit kind of thing, but no, they both of them just have 1 gigabit Ethernet. So I figured, you know what, why go for the more expensive one when it won't deliver the kind of bandwidth you might expect? So I'm hoping they adjust that. Because I don't know what the point of having a 4x4 Wi-Fi 6 access point is if you don't have, you know, multi-gigabit. So we'll see how it goes. So Joshua, yeah. So here's the thing. I'm going to explain this to everybody. This does not have multi-gigabit back, so it's only gigabit back out. But I'm not going to get the full 2 gigabits out of this. And we're going to explain this when we go through the unboxing procedure here. Even and I'll pull it up on the screen here. Let me pull up the Unifi Wi-Fi 6. I think it's the LR, the long range. Yeah, let me go pull it up here on their website. Yeah, so this is the long range one. And if I go, I'm just going to look it up real quick for you, and I'll show you the stats here. So let's go over to my computer screen. And get this, even the long range one, look at the network interface. That's it, which is befuddling to me, right? Because if we have one of these new 4x4 things with a throughput of you know, you're never going to see this, but I think it's reasonable to expect that the throughput on the 4x4 will exceed a gigabit, yet they only have a gigabit Ethernet on there. What's that all about? So that's why I didn't get the long-range one. This one is the 2x2, and I'll pull up the stats on this one so you can see what they're saying this one should do. So let me go look that up real quick. So that's why I went with this one. And I was curious just to see if it's any better. You know, and really, unless you're sitting under it, you're not going to get the best speed out of these things. So let me pull up the Unifi Wi-Fi 6 Lite, and we'll pull up the stats on that one, and just so you can all see what it looks like. These things are like $100, so they're not that expensive. They cost pretty much the same as the AC ones do. And if we go over to the stats here, let's see what they say you can get here. So it looks like on Wi-Fi 6, this will go to 1.2. But again, you've only got a gigabit NIC on there. And both of them do. That's what's so weird about this. That's why I didn't get the more expensive one. So, and Zachary says that they probably just did this for congestion. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. So you could have, theoretically, if you were having a lot of data transfer in between clients, having the broader amount would be helpful. And that's where I think the promise of this is. So what I figured I would do is this access point down here is the one that I use the most when I'm on Wi-Fi, because everywhere else I tend to be on Ethernet in the house. But this one here is what we use in the studio, obviously, because it's a studio one. But oddly, in my kitchen, which is right above the studio, that's where when I'm on Wi-Fi, that's what I'm plugged into. So I should see, if we get better performance out of this, the Wi-Fi that I use the most is off of that one. So I think that's how we're gonna go there. So that is the plan. So the first thing we have to do, by the way, I'm making a video while I do this, so you're gonna see me do my thing here. And I'll answer a few more questions here. Blake B wants to know, how's the handoff on this? And, you know, this is the thing that people don't realize with handoff on these access points, is that handoff is not done by the access point, it's done by the device, as far as I know. So I will say that my Macs and iPhones and the Android phones, like those tend to pretty smartly jump from one Wi-Fi to the other. The issue that I've long had in my house is with the Wi-Fi calling with Verizon, because while for internet usage and Zoom calls and stuff, if I'm running around different parts of the house, it's fine. But I have 3 of these things in the house. So I've got one down here. I have one that's right at the edge of the range of this one in upstairs. And then I've got a third one upstairs to cover my daughter's bedroom and my little gaming room up there. And so if I'm roaming from one to the other, my Wi-Fi calling calls drop all the time. Because the handoff is smooth, but it's not smooth enough for Verizon based on how it works. So we'll see what happens there. And Zosu has a comment as to what I expect the results of this test to be. He says, Wi-Fi 6 and 5G provide better benefits but are not noticeable in daily life. So I'm expecting not to see any huge difference, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. And yeah, so we're going to be good. It's good stuff. I'm looking forward to playing around with this. Yeah, I have some comments about going to pfSense. Yeah, I was thinking about doing that. Here's my problem: is that because my job now is making videos, if I'm spending a lot of time managing my network, this is exactly why I like to Unifi stuff and why I use Synology and all these other devices that you could roll your own on. Back before I had the YouTube channel, I would totally do everything myself. I would roll out pfSense. I would make my own NAS. I'd be all set with all that. The problem is now every minute that I spend with my IT work is a minute that I'm not making videos and earning a living. So I have, and now one day I could hire an IT director for my operation if I could ever afford to do that as part of my little business here, and I would go from there. But one of the reasons why I like the Unifi stuff is that it's not managed for you, but they're on top of it as far as firmware updates. The router's updating itself. So like that kind of stuff is why I like Unifi, because I don't like to babysit my stuff all the time. Barnabas wants to know, are we going to use iPerf? We certainly are. So I've got iPerf running on my Mac here, and we're going to use a little app called, and I'll show it to you. It's a little app called Wi-Fi Perf, which unfortunately, the company that was making this, so if we go over to About Wi-Fi Perf, this is from a company called Accessibility, and they built what I think is the best Wi-Fi Perf client ever, and they stopped making it. So it used to be up on the App Store, on the Mac App Store, and it was free, and now they don't offer it anymore. I was really bummed out. I emailed them and I said, hey, are you still going to make this thing? And they said, no, we're getting rid of it. So you can't get it anymore. But you can, of course, download the command line version of iPerf. But I just like this one because I like the GUI. So if anyone has suggestions for a Wi-Fi Perf-like client, something that looks like this, I'm totally on board with that. And what's cool about this is that once you load it up, it runs both a server and a client. So right now I have a server running and I have a client running, and then I have it running upstairs on one of my machines on the 10 gig leg, excuse me, the 10 gig leg of my network. So we're good to go there. Yeah, so this is my vMix Social, which pulls in all of your questions there. So let me see where I left off. So we're making a video right now as we're streaming. So let me go back to my last shot here, because I want to remember what I teased up. So hang on one second and get this thing hooked up. But we're going to start first with a network test of my existing Wi-Fi access point, and then we'll switch over to the new one and see what the speed differences are. Okay, so now I know what we're going to do. So let's go to my overhead shot here. So this is the one that's on the ceiling right now. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to cut over to it. So we're going to start on this, and then we're going to cut to the Wi-Fi perf test. And I've cleared out some stuff so we're not hitting too much on the Wi-Fi. Now the thing when you're testing Wi-Fi is that it's always inconsistent in its performance because you have a shared resource. So my wife and my daughter are upstairs right now, and I think my daughter's watching YouTube. I'm not sure what my wife is doing. I'm not sure what access point she's on. I guess I could look on the thing, but it's going to give us at least a ballpark. And even when nobody's on it, it tends to, they tend to fluctuate in performance. And I'm just going to check actually and see who's on it right now just to get a better sense of it. My wife usually is on the other one. But let's take a look here. I'm going to load up my Unifi app and it will tell me who is on what here. So if I look at the basement one, which is this one, and I look at users, well, I got a lot of people on this one right now. So the Nintendo Switch is on it. So right now the biggest user is my MacBook Air. So it looks like everyone else that's connected. I've got like light bulbs and all sorts of crazy stuff connected to it right now. 2 printers, a Blink Sync module. Okay, so I think we're okay though. There's nothing that's really using the bandwidth all that much. Okay, we're good there. Okay. Tim IT Tech was wondering, are they selling this on Amazon yet? Not yet. But everything else, of course, you can get on Amazon. But this is brand new, and I just got mine in yesterday. All right, so let's begin on the overhead shot here, and then we're going to cut to my Wi-Fi perf test, and we're going to shoot some packets upstairs and see how this comes together. Okay, so we're going to record a video, everybody, just so you know what I'm doing, and then we'll go and figure this out, and we'll go from there. All right. So bear with me, folks. I'm just getting the shot set up here, and we'll go from there. 3, 2, 1. All right, so in the ceiling right now is my Unifi AC light that I bought a number of years ago, and that one has been working just fine for me down here. And we're going to switch over to my Mac screen now, and I've got a program here called Wi-Fi Perf, which unfortunately is not available anymore, but it's one of the most useful utilities I have here around the house. This is basically a GUI version of iPerf, and what we're going to do is push a bunch of network packets upstairs to another Mac that is connected to my wired network at 10 gigabits. So we should be able to see exactly what our performance here is on the current Wi-Fi access point. And I'm going to start that test, I believe. Did it run? Nope, it just stopped. Hang on a second. Let's do that take again. I think the computer upstairs might have gone to sleep. Yep, the computer went to sleep upstairs. Hang on a second. Let's turn it back on. You know, live TV, everybody. How this stuff works. So let's wake that computer up upstairs. All right, now it's woken up. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, let's do that again. Take 2. All right, so let's close out this and close out that. And we'll try this again. All right. You know, it's funny, I see a lot of comments coming in about the quality of Unifi products and some issues with firmware updates. The odd thing is, and it might just be because I'm not that advanced of a user, but I have, knock on wood, and I say this now and that's when it's going to happen, I have never personally had problems with it. Now, I'm not doing anything crazy in my configuration. I'm pretty much a vanilla install of everything. I do have a couple of VLANs set up, but you know, nothing crazy. So, you know, my experience has been very good with these products, which is why I like them, because it's simple and it works for me. And these days I like simplicity, but I can understand that people have had real issues with these things. And I think, you know, what I found with them is that when they're working fine. All right, let me see what I can salvage out of that clip, because if I don't have to re-record something, let's try not to do that. So let's go here and say speed test part 1, or existing network part 1. Okay. 3, 2, 1. All right, so in the ceiling right now is my Unifi AC light that I bought a number of years ago, and that one has been working just fine for me down here. And we're going to switch over to my Mac screen now, and I've got a program here called Wi-Fi Perf, which unfortunately is not available anymore, but it's one of the most useful utilities I have here around the house. This is basically a GUI version of iPerf, and what we're going to do is push a bunch of network packets upstairs to another Mac that is connected to my wired network at 10 gigabits. So we should be able to see exactly what our performance here is on the current Wi-Fi access point. Wired network at 10 gigabits. So we should upstairs to another Mac that is connected to my wired network at 10 gigabits. So okay, so we're going to have it cut at 10 gigabits. And the nice thing is it won't look like a jump cut necessarily when I do that. So bear with me for 1 second, folks. Okay. All right, and then after this test runs, I will show the network connection according to OS, I guess OS 11 now, because they don't call it OS 10 anymore, right? Is that what they call this now? Let's see, about this Mac. It is now OS 11. Or we could just say Mac OS. All right, let's try this out. 3, 2, 1. So let's start up the test here and see what kind of speeds we get to that. It's still not working. Why is it not working? Maybe the IP address changed of that computer. Hang on a second. What is going on here? Yeah, the echo, everybody, is just because I didn't mute my mic when I played it back. It has a speaker on my monitor here that I watch. And sometimes when I restart the, when I start the video and I don't mute quick enough, you'll hear an echo. So let's go over here. And yeah, so my IP address hasn't changed on that thing up there. I'm just looking here to make sure I've got the right IP. Yeah, 52. And I might have accidentally changed something. No, it's the same port number. All right, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to quit Wi-Fi perf upstairs and reload it and see if that might fix it. All right. And maybe we'll run a test one here. It says connection refused before. Now it's working. Okay. So I'm just going to run the test. We'll do a entry take here and see how it works. But you can see if I'm going from down here to up there, we're pushing about 400 megabits per second over the existing AC. And you'll see this vary, again, just based on the Wi-Fi and how it works. Like, it's never consistent. If my wife has something that pops on the network, if my daughter does something, like, this is the kind of stuff that you deal with. Maybe the light bulb, was trying to do a firmware update. That's the kind of thing you run into here. All right, so let's clear these out. And we'll go ahead here and start the test. All right, one more time. Here we go. Take 5, as they say. 3, 2, 1. So let's start the test now and see what kind of performance we get. Now, this test is going to push data from my MacBook here on the desk upstairs. And as you can see here, we're getting about 400 megabits per second through my existing AC Lite access point. And we'll let this test just kind of run through to get some overview of the performance over time. And you'll get these little drop-offs here and there. Wi-Fi tends to fluctuate quite a bit versus Ethernet based on devices connecting, interference that it might be encountering, all sorts of stuff that happens. And you can see that test concluding there. And again, we're in the 300 to 400 megabit range. Now I'm going to reverse the test now and have the server push data down to the client device here. And let's see what we get there. And as that test spins up, we're getting roughly the same here, give or take, right? So it seems to be pretty symmetrical in its performance. Maybe we're doing a little bit better transmitting to the client versus sending data out. But overall, pretty good performance here out of the AC Lite. We'll let this test finish up, and then we'll just check my connection stats here from Mac OS when this finishes up. And we're almost there. And it's just about done. Okay, so there you go. You can see what we got. What I'm going to do here is go up to my Wi-Fi connection and take a look at the overall connection strength. And you can see our signal-to-noise ratio here, our transmit rate, and of course the mode that we're connected in. And I'm going to make note of this because after we hook up the new access point, let's compare and see what kind of signal strength we get. All right, there we go. Give me 1 second. I've got to escort somebody out of our Amazon chat room. I don't know why people have to be such a pain about this stuff, but it looks like somebody's helping me moderate, so thank you very much. Okay, so we are good there. And I just want to play that back and just see how that came together. And we'll continue onward. So bear with me for 1 second here while I log my clip. And we'll go from there. And let's play it back and see how it came out. 3, 2, 1. So let's start the test now and see what kind of performance we get. Now this test is going to push data from my MacBook here on the desk upstairs. And as you can see here, we're getting about 400 megabits per second through my existing AC Lite access point. And we'll let this test just kind of run through to get some overview of the performance over time. And you'll get these little drop-offs here and there. Wi-Fi tends to fluctuate quite a bit versus Ethernet based on devices connecting, interference that it might be encountering, all sorts of stuff that happens. And you can see that test concluding there. And again, we're in the 300 to 400 megabit range. Now I'm going to reverse the test now and have the server push data down to the client device here. And let's see what we get there. And as that test spins up, we're getting roughly the same here, give or take, right? So it seems to be pretty symmetrical in its performance. Maybe we're doing a little bit better transmitting to the client versus sending data out. But overall, pretty good performance here out of the AC Lite. We'll let this test finish up, and then we'll just check my connection stats here from Mac OS when this finishes up. And we're almost there, and it's just about done. Okay, so there you go. You can see what we got. What I'm going to do here is go up to my Wi-Fi connection and take a look at the overall connection strength. And you can see our signal-to-noise ratio here, our transmit rate, and of course the mode that we're connected in. And I'm going to make note of this because after we hook up the new access point, let's compare and see what kind of signal strength we get. All right, I can live with that. So then we'll do now the unboxing. If you all want to be really jealous, you want to be super jealous, check this out. Let me zoom in on this real quick. So this is what I get for my internet now. That's my speed. So the top number is upload, the bottom number is download. And that's not all of it. So in addition to the, I have to just talk about this because my connection has been a source of aggravation for a very long period of time. And for those of you who've been watching me stream for a long time know that we would drop off all the time because of the unreliable cable service that I had here. So Comcast did right by me here, and they did right in the sense that they allowed me to buy a product that they offer to solve the problem. So I'm paying a lot more, like 3 times as much. But this is the speed I get, and I've got fiber like running right into the room next door to me here. So that's been a big update, and that's what precipitated all of this work on the network because my internal network was only gigabit up until that point in time. And so what I've been doing is kind of piecing things together. And we covered this in the series that I did prior, so you can check out my full series on this. And the big challenge here was getting faster than gigabit speed over my existing Cat5e wiring. Because my goal here was, again, I try not to spend too much time in my IT because I'm not making videos when I'm doing all the IT work. And I'm not handy, so I'm very bad at drilling holes into things. I'm bad at running cable. I'm not very good at any of that stuff. So I said, I've got the wiring already. How do we make use of the 2.5 or the 5e that I've got, the Cat5e wiring? So 2.5 gigabit actually works over Cat5e over pretty good distances. So my decision was, I don't need 10 gigabit everywhere, I just need 2.5, and I want to do it as inexpensively as possible. So we found some switches from QNAP. They have 2.5 gig switches now, they're dumb switches. And then I put one of those kind of at the midpoint of my house. So I've got 2.5 for an area where I want the fast upload speed. For my gaming room upstairs, I have a very short run of Cat5e going upstairs from my room over here. It's only like maybe 15 feet, if that. So I've got 10 gig from here up there over 5e. And then I'm running another QNAP switch up there. And I've got Cat 6 and 6A cable, patch cables running to that for my devices upstairs. So I've got 10 gig in some places. I've got 2.5 in others. And it's working pretty well. Some questions on Amazon about having an AC device to play with. Yes, in fact, the MacBook Air, the new one, has AC, as far as I know, or I'm sorry, Wi-Fi 6. So that should work. I've got my iPhone 12 here, which has Wi-Fi 6. I've got some Lenovo stuff over there that came in that has, I think I have something that runs Wi-Fi 6, which is why I think I can finally test this out. So we'll see how it all works. And so we should have that. And actually, this MacBook, like I said, should pick it up automatically. Let me take a few other questions here real quick that came in while I was testing stuff out. And these have already been answered in the chat, but I will answer them as well anyhow. Matt Awar wants to know, does Amazon have video streaming like YouTube? Yes, they do. In fact, if you go to the link that I have, let me just pull up my live dashboard here. Give me 1 second, folks. The link that is in the video description, I believe I put the right one in there. I might have not. Let me see if I did or not. Anyway, if you click the link in the video description, that's going to take you over to this stream on Amazon right now. And I've been doing a lot of stuff on Amazon. I really enjoy streaming on Amazon. It's a good fit for the channel. I've got all my videos uploaded there now too. So if you don't mind, click on the link and then follow me on Amazon, because I do sometimes an exclusive stream on Amazon just because it's faster for me to set up the Amazon stream than it is to set up the YouTube one. So definitely check it out. And it's they're doing great stuff over there. I really like the Amazon Live platform. And again, it's such a great fit for what I do. So it's been working out really well. Bam Bassi says, I'm confused. Are you editing videos while streaming? Yes. No. Yes and no. So here's my workflow. And what's been interesting is that I've been doing this now for about eight years in this format. So right around this time, back in 2012 or so, actually in this very spot that I'm in, I set up a little studio with a Blackmagic ATEM switcher, and I started recording videos live to disk. And I wasn't streaming, but I was recording the very same way somebody would do a live stream. And it worked out really well because at the time I was working full time, and to be able to take a video and essentially have it edited before I even edit it was such a time saver. So most of the videos that you see I record in this way. And when I'm streaming, I figured, you know what, let's look at the value proposition for me on live streaming and everything else in general. My business is my time as far as my cost. So if I can live stream and get some great feedback from all of you and produce a video at the same time I'm live streaming, I've got some long-term value out of the time investment. And that's why I've been doing live streaming and recording videos. So sometimes it looks a little weird as a viewer, like why is he doing the same thing 5 times in a row? But once you get used to how I do stuff here, it's actually kind of fun to watch how the stuff gets made behind the scenes, because usually it's just me here just kind of cranking away. David's devices ran Cat 8 throughout his home. That's a lot of work. It took him 4 weeks, but now he's got 10 gigabit everywhere. And I've found so far, and I've had this running since October. And this computer, the one that's streaming out, this one's on 10 gig, and I've got a Cat 7 or 8 cable running to the wall. It goes Cat 5 from the wall into the next room there. Again, we're only talking about maybe 8 or 15 feet, 15 feet maybe. I don't know how many feet it is. It's not very long. It's up the wall, over the ceiling, back down. So short distance. I think if you can keep it like under 25 or 50 feet, you can probably get 10 gig working over Cat 5. Knock on wood, I haven't had a problem yet at all going 10 gig out of here or 10 gig going upstairs. My long run to the middle of the house and over to the bedroom even further, I'm still just doing 2.5, and that's been fine. So, I think it's a matter of where you go. Mark in the chat says it's fun to watch, and you can see the finished video. Yeah, the finished video is always much better than the stream from a long-term viewability standpoint. Because some folks are asking, why don't you push the stream out to viewers? And I don't think people would want to sit through a 2-hour video to get 15 minutes of information out of it, right? So if a 15-minute video can provide you 15 minutes of information, it's much more valuable to the viewer's time that way. So that's why I do that kind of stuff. And if you like the stream better, hey, that's fine too. I'm good. It works for everybody. Mark says, yeah, I will give you this one. Mark says, although it must take me much longer because they're always distracting me. Yes, it is. However, I would say that the distractions are helpful because I can't even count now how many times this has happened in a good way. What's happened now is that I will get some really good feedback while I'm shooting the video that will enhance the final product. So as much of a distraction perhaps as it might be to respond to chats in between takes, it's actually been really helpful. Barnabas asks, actually I've already done this in one of the other videos. Could I do an iPerf test with wired? You know, I don't think I have any free ports here. I will take a look and see if I have a free port on the switch in there. I did do a test a while ago with Cat 5 in my, so I did a video, gosh, I did it about a year or two ago. It's of a Netgear 10 gig switch. If you go on my YouTube channel and search for it, and we actually did that. We did a 10 gig iPerf test over 5E at a pretty good distance, about 30 feet or so, and it worked fine. So I have, like I said, I haven't had any problems, and it was going at the full rate you would expect. Mark also mentions that there's very little lag on the Amazon. Yeah, Amazon is using what they've picked up from Twitch for the back end for this, so the latency is very, very low versus YouTube. But they also have far fewer people streaming to Amazon versus YouTube during the day, so I think they have, you know, a better way to accommodate the traffic coming in. All right, so let us do the unboxing now. Let me see where I left off because I forgot where I left things off. Okay, so we left off on the end of the test. So now we're going to unbox this new one here and go from there. Oh, Mark wants me to visit time.is. Okay, so I'll do that for you real quick. And then we will, so let's go to time.is. All right, so here is time.is, and you tell me what you see, Mark. All right, let me know what the lag time is on that. 4.5 seconds. That is pretty quick. Okay. All right, so let's unbox this thing. It is pretty quick. That's a cool website, time.is. I've never visited that before. All right. Here we go. Let's move my keyboard out of the way here. 3, 2, 1. So let's now unbox the new AC6. AC6. Come on, Lon, get with the program. I get all these things confused. All right, so what we're going to do is just do a quick little unboxing, and then we will put it up on the ceiling, hopefully. 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's unbox the new Unifi 6 Lite here and see what's in the box. We've got some hardware for mounting it. My hope here is that the plate it uses to screw in is the same as the one I have on my current AC lights. That would make life a lot easier. It looks to be about the same size as the prior generation. So you can see what it looks like here. It does feel a little heavier, so maybe it has a little bit more beefier components inside. It actually feels like the base here is metal. Actually feels a lot stronger than the AC lights do. So there is the access point, pretty simple. Now these are PoE powered. So the power comes in over the Ethernet, and I hope that it will work with my existing injector that I'm using for the other one, because it doesn't actually come with a plug in the box. So if you don't have an injector and your switch is not capable of providing power over Ethernet, you're going to need to get one. This is the plate that it can use to screw onto a wall or onto a drop ceiling. If you're using a drop ceiling, this metal piece goes in on the other side of the tile, and then you put this one on top of it. And again, my hope here is that this is identical to the one that's already in there. So let's go over to the one that's on the ceiling now. Let's unscrew it and see if the base lines up. And then if it does, we'll get this thing hooked up and give it a test. This is the moment of truth, because if this base plate is not the same, I'm in trouble. Maybe not, but it's going to require me to do some work on that ceiling tile, which I probably won't do live here, but we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm going to walk over to the other camera here, and let's unscrew everything. And I'm probably just going to let the recorder kind of roll here as we do it. And I probably am not going to take this one off my configuration list just yet. It is pretty much the same size, so that's not a bad thing. And let me hit, I just want to make sure I've got a good signal here. So I'm going to grab Actually, you know what? I can't do that. Let me just make sure we're okay on the screen here before I, ouch, I stubbed my toe. Okay, we're good. So I'm going to hit record and just put the keyboard down. All right, there we go. Okay. I'm on a chair. Hopefully I don't hurt myself. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to unscrew this now and take it off the ceiling. And it looks like, let me just line it up here. It looks like this plate is identical, so it should be pretty much a swap out here without having to do anything additional, which is a big relief. So I'm just going to undo the Ethernet here and pull this out. And now, whoops, got some ceiling tile dust coming down there. We will find a place for that later. And now what I'm going to do is just attach the cable to the new one here. I'll push it back in a little bit. And we'll get that connected. And I just want to make sure we're getting power here. There's no lights on this, so I won't know until I get back to the computer if everything hooked up correctly. And I should just be able to screw it back in here. Yep, we're good to go. All right, that was it for the install. Super simple because I already had the plate there. Let's get this thing now added to the network. Well, that was easy. That doesn't happen often. Okay. So here, John's got a good point here. Let me pull up, John Walshaw's got a comment. Because so many talk about mesh Wi-Fi, I would always start by saying home run and Ethernet. Absolutely. If you can do it, having Ethernet drops to every Wi-Fi access point is ideal. And we did a whole series. This was a sponsored piece that I did, but it's all legit, all right? We did a bunch of pieces looking at Mocha adapters as a way to run your backhaul. And what we found is that Wi-Fi mesh uses Wi-Fi to communicate between devices. And that can often create some challenges. So you definitely, if you can, you want to have a good solid home run from every Wi-Fi access point via Ethernet back in. And that way you're not sharing traffic and going through all this other crazy stuff. It actually works out a lot better. All right, so the good news here, well, basement's not on, but I'm not getting power to this one. So I'm guessing the injector that I have is not good here. Let me just refresh the screen here. So I'm going to have to go get my, good thing I have an extra injector, so I'm going to go grab that and see if that is why it is not showing up here yet. Let me see if I can add another one to the, because usually you'll see one on the list here. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm just trying to get to the screen where I can add new hardware. So let's go to devices. Yeah, so it looks like it's not seeing it. So we need to go and check out that injector, because I think that injector from the old one is not working. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. I've got to go take a trip to the equipment closet to see what's going on, but you can look at the new one here if you're so inclined. So let me see what's going on in here. I've got to find my injector, wherever that thing went, and see what we're getting. Oh, wait a minute. So something's going on. Hang on a second, everybody. Yeah, that's not, I was just seeing some weird stuff on the screen here. Okay, here's the injector, the old one. And I'm gonna do a switcheroo on this and see. Just gotta find where it's plugged in. And oddly, my existing access point, or my existing, the Unifi Dream Machine, the router, does not have PoE on its ports as far as I know. So the result is that you have to have a PoE injector for these things to work. So I'm going to unplug the, so make sure I got the right plug here. I'm going to make sure I've got the right plug here, and we're going to unplug this one. And then I got to go find my other PoE injector and get that going. I do have one somewhere, and I may have to go out and buy a new one. So I have the old injectors that came with my AC lights, and those things were really temperamental, the AC lights. They didn't like injectors from other brands and stuff. I think these new ones are more standardized. And I just got to figure out or remember where I put my injector that I had that I use for everything around here. So bear with me, because it is somewhere in this mess. If I can find it. Where did I put it? This is my life. I constantly put things down and forget where I put them. And then I got to go hunting for them. And the odd thing is I thought I had a couple of other injectors somewhere, but I can't seem to find them these days. So hang on one second, folks. And the other issue is that I started putting things away so that I could organize stuff better. And you know how that went. I can't find anything anymore. So let's see. Where did that injector go? I was using it with my PTZ optics camera. And I hope that, oh, I think it's over here. Yeah, because I don't think here it is. Okay, we found it. So now I'm going to just grab a power cable for it. And we're going to plug it in real quick. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. This one's kind of overkill. By the way, if you're curious what I'm plugging in, because again, it doesn't come with any power cords. So I'm going to plug this thing in. This is overkill. It doesn't need this much power. This one can go up to 30 watts, but it should do well. And we'll see how fast the adoption is once it's plugged in. So what should happen here, and I'll show you what I'm looking at. What should happen here when I plug it in is that we should see it on the list of devices here, and we have to adopt the device into our ecosystem. And at the moment, it's not adopting it because it doesn't have power going to it that's sufficient. So we're going to swap in this PoE injector, and I'll probably get a smaller one or another one just so I can keep this one free. I use this one I use for my cameras, so I like to have at least one available. So we're going to plug this in. All right, and then we're going to swap out the cables from the old one here. So this one's going to the PoE. So this is power out. And this one is data in. And hopefully everything will light up on this sucker. And we'll get this show on the road. Yeah, so this one's definitely the one going out over the wall. So that should work. Okay. Whew. Let's go take a look and see if it starts blinking. If not, maybe that thing's defective. I don't know. Or I didn't plug it in right. Could be one or the other. Oh, there it goes. Now it's blinking. Okay, that's progress. All right. How's everybody doing? Keith McDermott is here. Hello. Okay, it is blinking. That's a good sign. And now we have to adopt it, because I don't think it was blinking before, was it? And when I go back to my device list here, yep, here we go. Okay, so we're going to have to record this so that we can include it in the video. And let me see where I left off on that last clip. I just want to see how that came out, and then we'll go through the adoption phase here. So we'll go to 5, wall installation. And I think this is, actually that's going to be 6 because we have an unboxing that I did first. So let me just make sure that's in place. I'm sorry for the boring imagery right now. I'm just trying to get my clips organized because we're putting a video together while we shoot this. So here's the unboxing. Let's watch that real quick. 3, 2, 1. All right, so and again, my hope here is that this is identical to the one that's already in there. So let's go over, all right, there we go. Okay. This plate is identical, so it should be pretty much a swap out here without having to do anything additional, which is, it looks like this out here without having to do anything additional, which is a big relief. So I'm just going to undo the Ethernet here and pull this out. And now, whoops, got some ceiling tile dust coming down there. We will find a place for that later. And now what I'm going to do is just attach the cable to the new one here. I'll push it back in a little bit. And we'll get that connected. And I just want to make sure we're getting power here. There's no lights on this, so I don't know. I won't know until I get back to the computer if everything hooked up correctly. Simple, because I already had the plate there. Let's get this thing now added to the network. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the computer screen to start this next shot, and then I'll jump back. Okay. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right, so we got everything hooked up. One note here. Actually, let me go back to me, and then we'll go to the screen. 3, 2, 1. All right, so everything is now hooked up. One thing that I noticed, though, is that the PoE injector I had for my AC lights do not work with this one. So I did have an extra PoE injector that I put into place here. I don't actually have a PoE switch on my rack over there, but if you had one, of course, that would work as well. Now, there are no lights on the inside of the access point here, but when it is turned on and not associated with your Unifi system, you will get a white light on it to know that it does have power and presumably is connected to the network. Now, the next step here with Unifi gear is that we have to adopt it onto our network. And if I go over to my list of devices here, you can see that the basement right now is dimmed out because we've taken that device off the network. I'll probably be getting a notification pushed to me that that device is disconnected. And now we're also going to see here that we've got the Unifi 6 Lite that's showing up on the network, but it says pending adoption because it's not part of our network yet. So what I'm going to do here is just go over to Adopt, and now this is going to get adopted into our network. And it looks like there might also be a firmware update for it as well. So once it's done provisioning and getting it connected to the network, I'm going to go in and update the firmware, and then we'll do some testing and see how faster, or see if this one is faster than our other one. All right, let's let that finish up here. And you can watch that provision if you want. And David's devices on Amazon was wondering if this would provision faster, so we'll take a look and see. That does take a while to provision. And it's still going here. Oh, it's connected. It's done. That was quick. So if that's faster, David's devices, there you go. And let's just do the firmware update. That might take longer than provisioning. Oops, wrong button. We'll confirm that. And it's going to update for us. So it's going to download a firmware update and then update that. And this is what it looks like. The light has changed. It is brighter now than it was before. And it looks like it's going through its flash. The flash is flashing. See, it says updating. And we'll let that do its thing real quick. Pretty cool, huh? So let's take some more questions here. And we'll let that go. So people are, people are still confused. Yeah, so I play things back, and then often I just kind of scrub through it just to see where, because generally my system records properly, so rather than make you sit through the whole thing again, I just kind of fast forward just to make sure all the different points that I wanted to make were covered and that we got everything in there. So that's why it's a little confusing for some folks. Sorry about that. Oftentimes I put a little thing on there to say that I'm recording a video, right, to let folks know exactly what I'm doing, but sorry about that. All right, so right now it's still going through the upgrade process, or the updating. It says writing still on my control panel here. And we'll let that finish up. I'm excited here, actually, because I'm really eager to do a speed test once this is done. But I figure we may as well get it up to the right firmware before we do anything else. And my laptop now is connected to one of the other access points in the house. So you can see our transmit rate is much lower because we're further away from it. So I think I'm probably hitting the one in the bonus room above the garage. That's the one I'm probably on right now. All right, looks like the blinking, looks like it must be rebooting now, because it stopped blinking, and now it's doing something else. I must say the build quality on these, not that it matters, but the build quality feels a lot better on, like they feel like really solid. So they've definitely done some work on that. And we're still updating. So we'll let that kind of go through. The provisioning actually was a lot quicker, wasn't it? And yeah, we'll just wait it out here and wait for it to finish blinking. You can watch something blink for a few minutes if you don't mind. And I will come, I'm not going anywhere. I'll stick around here. I'm just thinking about what else we need to do. I think there's probably, I'm going to see what happens with the default settings here and see if it just kind of works without doing anything. All right, it looks like, oh, now it's provisioning again. And I'm probably going to rename this one also, which will probably require another provisioning. I think maybe what I'll do to spare you the agony is I won't go through any more provisioning. Okay, it looks like it's done. And I think my Mac here has not yet reconnected to the new one. So I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi off and back on again and force it to reconnect. The iPhone has reconnected. And it looks like we are on the network. So let's see, nice strong signal. And let's see, yep, okay folks, looks like we've arrived, 802.11ax. Now what I want to do real quick here is pull up the end of the network test that we did before and just compare, because I want my experts to look at this. So this is rather interesting, actually. My transmit rate is lower, and it looks like my noise is higher. Here, RSSI should be, which one should be lower? Is it the, so let me pull this up here. I think I can do that without, let me take a screenshot here. I think I can do a still frame. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add this as a separate video item so I can show you exactly what it looks like. I'll go right to the end here. So this is the current, and again, everything's in the exact same place, right? So this is the current one, and now with the 802.11ax. And here's what we had. Oops, hang on, let me go back to the end of this. It seems to want to play through the whole thing. Okay, so let me just go to the end here. Okay, so that's the AC. And you can see I had a better transmit rate. Can someone tell me if the noise, should it be lower or higher? So we have 94 now. And on the other one, we have 91 on the old one. So let me know if that is what we should be seeing. Okay, so people are giving me some advice here. So RSSI should be lower, signal to noise ratio higher. Okay, so we've got to do one thing here. So the channel width is not right there. So let's go into the settings on this one. And let's go and adjust this and make sure we get all the stuff configured properly. So I'm going to go over to radios, I think is what I want here. Bear with me, folks, or settings. Config, okay. Okay, there we go. So, all right, folks, walk me through this. So I think what we want to do is go to 80, right? That's what we want. And the channel, so some folks were saying on the channel to go to what? Hang on a second, folks. Okay, put it on channel 161. So I will do that. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so we're going to go to 180 and channel 161. All right, so I'm going to take your advice. That's what we're going to do. So let me cue this up and apply the change. And I'll probably give some instruction for people to do that. So we're going to let that recycle itself here. And it's provisioning. Thank you, everybody, for your help on that. Okay, so channel 161 it is. That seems to be the consensus. Now here's my question. If I've got multiple ones of these, we don't want them to be on the same channel, right? So we're going to have to kind of space them out, right? And right, pick based on what's not in use. And I do get hit with radars every once in a while. Not down here because it's in the basement, but my other two, I often get notifications that they're getting hit with radar. And that's something that will that will impact the performance. All right. Yep, looks like we're good now. Wow, okay, much better. Much, much better. So check it out. So it's about what we had before. That is good. Okay, so we're going to have to make that recommendation for people. Okay. Good to go. All right. So give me a second here, everybody. I'm going to go to, I'm just thinking out loud here what I want to do. So we ended the last clip. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is as I add more, I'll figure out all this stuff. So let me see where we ended the last clip, which was getting it all provisioned and everything. So that's camera 4, camera 7. Okay, so let me just watch this one real quick. 3, 2, 1. All right, so everything is now hooked up. One thing that I noticed, though, is that the PoE injector I had for my AC lights do not work with this one. So I did have an extra PoE injector that I put into place here. I don't actually have a PoE switch on my rack over there, but if you had one, of course, that would work as well. Now, there are no lights on the inside of the access point here, but when it is turned on and not associated with your Unifi system, you will get a white light on it to know that it does have power and presumably is connected to the network. Now, the next step here with Unifi gear is that we have to adopt it onto our network. And if I go over to my list of devices here, you can see that the basement right now is dimmed out because we've taken that device off the network. I'll probably be getting a notification pushed to me and now this is going to get adopted into our network. And it looks like there might also be a firmware update for it as well. So once it's done provisioning and getting it connected to the network, I'm going to go in and update the firmware, and then we'll do some testing and see how faster, or if this one is faster than our other one. So we're going to pick it back up on me, and we'll figure this out. I see Barnabas here. Yeah, so this is on, okay, so because he's saying that there's a backplane issue here. So maybe I should put this somewhere else, huh? Are there any other devices plugged into the UDM Pro? You don't want to share the gig backplane bandwidth while we're testing it. I don't think so, not in use, because this computer, the one that's streaming out, is on the 10 gig network, and that's coming in over the SFP+. Let me check the connections and see. It's possible. Actually, you know what? There is something here. Good point. Which one is it? So that one's there. This blue one, where does this blue one go to? All right, that's interconnecting the rest of it. Yeah, so this one is on that. I'm just thinking out loud here. let's give it a go. I think what I could do, I guess, is move it to my other switch. Because the only thing that's on here, no, actually, you know what? We're good. We're good. There's nothing else using it right now. Because this other one here is not in use, and this is connected to B, which is over here, 5B. Yeah, 5B is not in use, so we're good. Yeah, nothing else is on there. We're in good shape. Okay. All right, so I want to show everybody what we configured here. And I guess you got to be careful about not overlapping channels, but from what you're all telling me, the higher the channel, the better, right? So we're going to talk about the channel allocation. And thank you, by the way, for everyone for your assistance here. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we will show this. Yes, everything right now is not coming in through that thing. Actually, you know, now that I think about it, there could be some NDI. No, there isn't any NDI coming in. The NDI is all off. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, sorry, I'm just thinking. Okay, so we're going to come onto the computer screen first. And I think what I'll do is pull down this first, which is going to show us the connection that we have now, which is this. And then we're going to go to the configuration. I think that's how we're going to do it. That is what we're going to do. Okay, we're good. Oh, it's 3 o'clock already. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got firmware updated, we've got everything provisioned, and if you check out my connection here on the Mac, you can see now that we are running with Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax. Our transmit rate is 1.2 gigabits per second. Now note that the AC, or the 6 Lite here that I've got in the ceiling, only has a gigabit Ethernet connection back to the router. So you could probably transmit data in between devices faster than what you can actually send over the wire back to your router. Oddly, their more powerful long-range Wi-Fi 6 access point also only runs at gigabit Ethernet, which kind of surprised me. And that's why I just went with this one initially, because you wouldn't really get much out of the faster one, given it doesn't have any faster Ethernet bringing that data back through your backhaul there. So that's what our connection is looking like right now. And I've been shooting this video during a live stream, and my viewers have been very helpful in suggesting some settings that you need to do to get the best performance out of it, because it wasn't at these settings by default. So what we did here is we went over to the AC6, or sorry, the 6 Lite on the list here, and then we went over to the config gear when that sidebar came up, and we switched the channel width to HE80, and we also selected channel 161. And what you probably want to do is make sure you're on the higher channels, and you also have to make sure you're not overlapping one channel with the other. So if I get more of these, I'll put them on different channels. But for right now, just with the single one here, channel 161 is good for the least amount of interference. So now that we've got everything set up, let's run the test now and see if we get any faster speeds to the computer upstairs. How was that, everybody? Was that good? Let me know. I want to make sure I explain that properly. So let's go. Okay. So let me go in and add the video we just shot to the mix. And this is going to be 8, and we're going to call this reboot, or we'll say fully configured. And AP settings. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, now the big question will be how this is going to work. How this is going to work with my other existing devices. That's a whole nother factor. I should probably look at that, actually. I'll think about I have things nearby that support only AC, so I can see if those will connect. I'm guessing it's backwards compatible, right? To some degree. Okay. So let's add that one to the mix. And I think we're good here. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got the channel width to HE80, and we also selected channel 161. And what you probably, let's run the test now and see if we get any fast. I'm happy. All right, so now, let's go. And actually, I think if I'm not mistaken, just to go back to the long range, Unifi 6 long range, I think the long range only has a single port as well. Let me pull it up here real quick and see what the specs are. Yeah, check it out, everybody. This is what really, I don't understand it. So this is the long range, right? So here's your 2.4 gigabits, yada, yada, right? But check it out. That's it. That's all you get. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. Oh, I do know is I got to buy another injector. So that's why I didn't wait for it. I'm just there's no performance advantage right now, right? So that's why I didn't do it. Okay, so I'm going to just close out my YouTube window here real quick because that uses the Wi-Fi. And so let's jump over here and let's clear it out. And I think I want to make sure that the computer upstairs is still accepting connections. Let's make sure that test runs. Yep, we're good. So I'll give you a little preview so we know what to expect here. It's actually slower. It's like much slower. And this is from upstairs to downstairs. So what I might do, I don't know, I'm not sure what could be causing that. Because it's on the same ports and everything as it was before. So let's stop this and let's go in the other direction. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, it's like really the same. So that makes me think, do I have some kind of network bottleneck here that's causing this? And if that's the case, then we got to run the test again from the first one. But there's no way that I'd have a bottleneck like this, because everything else in my network has been rocked. You know, like I don't see those kind of performance degradations. There's literally no difference in performance here. If anything, it's actually a little bit less performing, if that's a word. So let's hear from the experts on that one. Isn't that weird? So Barnabas says I should buy don't buy an injector, buy a switch. I'll not have backplate issues. That's true. But then I have to have another switch. I actually have a Unifi switch that I could add to the rack, which I might do. I just didn't add it because it didn't have enough ports for my gigabit traffic. So that is why. So in any event, I am not seeing any difference at all. It's exactly the same. Let me try running. Let me quit everything and kind of go back in and see if there was some issue there. And you know what I will do is we'll test out my iPhone also. And I'm just going to run it again here. Yeah, pretty much the same. In fact, it's actually a little slower. It's actually not better at all. And I'm guessing like your real advantage here with Wi-Fi 6 is not necessarily the bandwidth, but the, I mean, everything's in the same spot. Like there's really no difference here in how we're running this. Let's go the other way here. Yeah, the transmit speed is lower. I mean, I would say that, you know, if you're happy with your AC Wi-Fi, maybe it's okay if you don't have that many people on the network. My guess here is that we would probably see more consistent performance, unless I've got interference. Let me check the other channels and just see if anyone else is using channel 161 in the house here. So let's go to the sitting room. And the radios, I'm just going to check real quick here. Yeah, the sitting room is on channel 106. The living room is on channel 138. So there's nothing else using that channel. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, no, I did check the iPerf earlier because I wanted to make sure that I was getting that out of there. So we were good there. I could hook up some Ethernet. Let me find my Ethernet adapter here. This place is a disaster. But I do have my little gigabit Ethernet thingy here I can pop in real quick. So let's hook that up real fast, and we'll give that a shot just to make sure. Because I did test it out, because I will say that we are running Intel software, but I was curious if there would be an issue with this one. And it was running perfectly earlier. In fact, I was testing it on the 2.5 gig network a little bit earlier, and it was working fine. But there's no way there's a bottleneck at all, because there's nothing else in the house right now that's even using all that much bandwidth. What I will do in a second is I will turn off I have NDI running, but the NDI is all over Ethernet at the moment, because I'm just checking the usage on here as well. Let me just double check and see. Yeah, there's yeah, nobody's using this access point right now except the MacBook. So let me find the end of this Ethernet cable wherever it went, and we'll try out some other stuff here. Okay. All right, so we'll plug the Ethernet in, and let's take a look at the Ethernet speed. It's going to be kind of an anticlimactic video. Like, the hope would be that this Wi-Fi 6 would be, super fast. I might try plugging it into my other switch and just see if that makes a difference. I doubt it, but you never know. Okay, so now we're on Ethernet, and let me just close out the Wi-Fi perf here and reload it. And we'll go up to that same computer upstairs, just for the heck of it. And let's run that, because now we're on the Wi-Fi. So a little slower over Ethernet, but I'm on a different leg here. This is gigabit. This is on the Ethernet again. So we're getting what we're supposed to get. So the computer's not the problem. And what I will try real quick here, let's reconnect the Wi-Fi. Let me move the access point to my other switch. So right now it's plugged into the Dream Machine, but I'm going to plug it into my other switch, and we'll see if that makes any difference. And I've got two switches I can try out, so let me do that real quick, and let's see if that gives us any different performance level here. So we're going to take the access point, which is plugged into my injector thingy. It could be the injector too, couldn't it? So I do have, what I could try is I could go try let me go get my PoE switch and see if the injector might be the problem. Hang on. Okay, so I've got this thing I know is capable. I've got this PoE switch. So we're going to try this real quick and see if that makes a difference. Okay, and then yeah, we may change the channel in a minute too. But let's kind of rule it all out. So we'll do the switch first, and eventually I'll get the other Unifi switch on the rack here and kind of do it right. But in the meantime, we're just going to get this switch connected and see if it's the switch. And if it's not the switch, then we'll try something else. And that's what's so fun about troubleshooting, is that you can keep trying everything until you get it right. So we're going to patch this in to the Unifi here. Sorry, I don't have the camera in here to show you what I'm doing, but it's a disaster in this room, so I'm kind of embarrassed by it at the moment. So we will get this one hooked up here, and we'll wire this in right there, and then we're going to grab the cable from the injector, which goes to the access point, and we're going to pop it in right here. And let's see what happens now. Okay, so now we are connected. And let's take a look. All right, so now we've got the, let's go wait for it to come back on. It's going to take a minute for it to renegotiate itself here. It's got to reboot. So now we've got a new switch. So we're not using the injector anymore. I've got a true gigabit PoE switch that I hooked it up to. And once the thing comes back on, as you can see, it is rebooting. And thank you all for your help. And Bam Bass says, troubleshooting is fun if you don't like trouble. So yeah, we're going to try a couple different things here. I think it could either be, it could be the injector I was using. It could also be the channel selection. So we've got a couple of things that we can troubleshoot here. But that's what you got to do, figure it out. Okay, so now we're back up. The Mac here is still on the other access point, but we'll give it a second for it to find it. And I might switch the channel selection to auto and see, because all the other ones are on auto, I think, so we'll see if that has any impact after we reboot here. So I'm just going to cycle the Wi-Fi on the Mac here. It's interesting, you know, it roams really well from AC to AC, but it doesn't seem to roam automatically to the other one. It's not finding it just yet. Let's give it another second here to get connected. Looks like the iPhone connected. Okay, now we're good. It's at a lower transfer rate, so I'm going to just disconnect and reconnect one more time. Okay. Yeah, now it's coming back. So I'm at 960, 864, so it looks like the signal's a little wacky. Hang on, let me just close the door here. All right, so we're at 960. So I may actually reshoot some of this video as we learn more here, but I'll show you what we're at now. We are got the AX, and it's kind of jumping up and down between like 960 and 864, and I haven't moved anything. It's in the same exact spot it was earlier. So I don't know if my kids being home now suddenly makes a difference. Who knows? That's the one problem with Wi-Fi, is that it's very fickle. It's not like a wire. You plug the Ethernet in and it works, right? So that's often the path of least resistance. That's why I like to wire everything if I can. Makes life so much easier. All right, so we're going to try the test again and see if it was the switch. I doubt it. Oh, it is different. It might have been the injector, everybody, because check it out. Check it out. Much better. We're at half a gigabit. But Lon, you say, it's not the full. Well, that's Wi-Fi. If I was like closer to it, I could probably go right under it and maybe get a little bit better bandwidth out of it. So that's much better. Look at that. Much better. So it was the injector. So thank you to all of you who suggested that we not do that. Okay, so now the next question is, should we try the auto for the channel and see if that makes a difference? Isn't that crazy? So that solves that problem. Okay, so let me go back to our chat here, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, so Trent Curtis says, Wi-Fi is not as fickle at 5 as it is at 2.4. I got some crazy stories with 2.4. So my old microphone system was 2.4, so whenever I would have like a Bluetooth device on the desk, it would like kill the mic. So there you go. So definitely it was the injector. So do we want to try the channel setting now to go to auto? Because I see some mixed opinions on that. Because right now it's still on channel 161. I could put it on auto. Let me do that real quick because we can always change it back. So let's go to auto and then queue those changes up. And we'll let it reprovision here after I apply the changes. I'm just curious if it will make a difference. Because I think everything else is on auto right now. You have to say they have a pretty good system of detecting signals, right? You could actually have it do a site survey as part of the deal. We're not going to get into the weeds on that, but we'll see. Trent Curtis says 10100 on the injector. No, it was gigabit because I use it for my NDI stuff and it usually works pretty good. It just could be, I found that sometimes stuff just doesn't interact the right way. And we were getting like 300 and change off of the injector, but it just, you know, stuff just acts oddly sometimes. So now I've got to like re-engineer the whole room in there. Got to hook up that other switch, which is probably for the best. I should probably do that. What happened was about two or 3 years ago, I bought. So my philosophy in life is that if you can run Ethernet somewhere, you should. So as often as I can, I have Ethernet. So down here, every wall has 4 Ethernet connections on it. Even that's not enough because I've got, like, just for this broadcast today, I've got 3 or 4 ports just on that wall right there in use. And so, you know, that's part of my philosophy. So I don't even know where I was going with this, but that's what I like to do. So the Wi-Fi is kind of like the secondary thing. Okay, so it looks like we are back up. Let me check and see if we are connected. And the computer now, let's see if the computer has a better signal. Oh, now it's even worse. Yes, it went down to channel 149. So let's just run the test again and see what we get. All right, so here is, we're back to how we were a minute ago. Oh, wait, no, it's coming back. So it's about the same. Now this is the client to server. And my kids are home now, so they could be hitting this thing too. So maybe I'll restrict them from popping on here. There's like the kids' YouTube, right? Boom, there goes the neighborhood. Let's go to. It may actually have better luck. Actually, this is the downstream. That's right. So we're in the ballpark. I'm going to put it back at 161. I don't think it makes much of a difference, at least right now. But there's no penalty, it looks like, by manually choosing, at least in my configuration. I think we probably should talk about, though, that your mileage is going to vary because you could be in in the city somewhere and you're going to have a lot more interference, right? So there's that. J Rose wants to know, what is an injector? Okay, so the challenge with this one is that it doesn't come with a power adapter, and the only way you can get this thing working is to use a power over Ethernet device of some kind. So in my equipment room over there, I had an injector for PoE. In other words, it's a device that just injects power, and, excuse me, it just injects power. Oh, frog in my throat. It just injects power, and then it passes data through it. And the injector I was using it didn't like this thing. So that was that. My wife is printing something. So what we did instead is we hooked it up to a proper switch, and that worked. But now I've got like another thing in there. So that's what happened. Okay. So, and William wants me to try 155. So let's try that real quick. So we'll go back to here. And now what we're doing is we're just playing around with different channels and stuff on here. Oops. And we're not even getting into all the other crazy stuff you can do with this. So we'll go to channel. So we're on auto right now. And we'll try now to go to one. I don't have 155. I got 157. I could try that, I guess. So we'll try that real quick. And we'll reboot it. And we'll see what we get there. So now it's provisioning. That should start blinking in a second. And let's see what we end up with here. J. Rose says, remember when tech was simple? Yeah, it got simple. Wrong person. But I do want to acknowledge Trent's comment there. I forgot. I thought I had sent this comment through. There it goes. No offense, Trent. I got you up there already. I was just trying to get J. Rose up here. Yeah, tech used to be simpler. And now it's not as simple. But you know what? There was a... Oh, I just killed something. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm just hitting buttons that I shouldn't be hitting here. This is what happens when I get to like 3:30. I start to lose my mental acuity. So let's go back to title. There we go. Okay. Hopefully that still works. Nope, see now the thing is gone there. And John Doe says, I checked the specs and this doesn't even support 160 megahertz channels. Although I think I was connected at that higher channel. Okay, so now we're back up. And let me check the device here. So we are connected. Yeah, we're connected at channel 157. So let's go over to 157, or to the settings here so you can see. So we are at channel 157, but we're not doing as well on the transmit rate because before, oh, you're looking at the wrong thing. Hang on a second. What is going on here? That's what you're looking at. Sorry, everybody. Things are just, I have too many buttons on the screen at the moment. Let me close out that one. So this is what we're at now. So we are on channel 157, and we've got kind of the same transmit rate we were seeing before. So let me go back to the test here, and let's run it again. This is server to client. So this is transmitting from the access point to the client here. And we're getting about what we were getting before. So I think we're seeing some consistency here. Now the thing is, where I live in the middle of nowhere. So there's not a lot of, especially on 5 gigahertz, there's not a lot of interference. I'm not in an apartment building where there's a lot of other people with this stuff. So we're good there. I'm going to put it back on 161. And what I want to do is go back to what we just recorded and make sure that I'm still comfortable with the recommendations that I made here. So let's watch this real quick. Your speeds to the computer upstairs. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we've got firmware updated, we've got everything provisioned, and if you check out my connection here on the Mac, you can see now that we are running with Wi-Fi 6, 802.11ax. Our transmit rate is 1.2 gigabits per second. Now note that the AC, or the 6 Lite here that I've got in the ceiling, only has a gigabit Ethernet connection back to the router. So you could probably transmit data in between devices faster than what you can actually send over the wire back to your router. Oddly, their more powerful long-range Wi-Fi 6 access point also only runs at gigabit Ethernet, which kind of surprised me. And that's why I just went with this one initially, because you wouldn't really get much out of the faster one, given it doesn't have any faster Ethernet bringing that data back through your backhaul there. So that's what our connection is looking like right now. And I've been shooting this video during a live stream, and my viewers have been very helpful in suggesting some settings that you need to do to get the best performance out of it, because it wasn't at these settings by default. So what we did here is we went over to the AC6, or sorry, the 6 Lite on the list here, and then we went over to the config gear when that sidebar came up, and we switched the channel width to HE 80, and we also selected channel 161. And what you probably want to do is make sure you're on the higher channels, and you also have to make sure you're not overlapping one channel with the other. So if I get more of these, I'll put them on different channels. But for right now, just with the single one here, channel 161 is good for the least amount of interference. So now that we've got everything set up, let's run the test now and see if we get any faster speeds to the computer upstairs. Live with that. I think I'm okay with that. So we're going to jump back now to the tester here, and I ended on me. And I'm going to explain some things about the injector problem that we had, because I think that's important for people to know. So that is that. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the tester here, okay? And we'll start with client to server. And I might just check my app here on the phone and see where my kids, my kids are home now. I was hoping to get this done before they came home. So I want to see who's on this access point right now. I think I usually keep the kids on the 2.4. Let's see who's on here. So my iPad connected, but that's fine. I'm just looking through here. I think we're good. Yeah, we're okay. Yep, we're fine. The kids are not on the AC, on the 5G side right now. And they're not even on this one, because they're over there. Okay, good. It's my kids like, oh, I missed a bunch of Amazon chats. It's weird, like a lot of the stuff here, I missed all of these chats. So David's devices, I am sorry about this because, like, for whatever reason, the Amazon app froze up on me. So I missed everything you said. I'm just looking through here, all your comments. So you've had some good, okay. So there we go. Sorry, David, I missed everything there. Live to Shop says, I'm the best. Thank you very much. What model PoE switch did I plug it into? So what I have in there is it's a Netgear. It's got like a ton, here, I'll take my little camera out here and I'll show, you know, I'll get the model number because it's such a mess in there. I'm kind of embarrassed by it. It's a Netgear. Let me find it on Amazon real quick, and then we'll finish up here. So it's like I think it's like a 16 port PoE. Yeah, this is it. So this one is the one that I have it plugged into right now. And like I said, I have, in that room, I actually have a Unifi one that I'll get going in a little while. But this is the one I have it plugged into at the moment. And this thing has a lot of power, like 183 watts total. It works really well. I reviewed this. If you look it up on YouTube, you'll find my review of it. And I think there should be a review of mine on the product page. Is it on here? Yep. Oh, no, it isn't. I got to make sure I get that video up there because I know I reviewed it. So I'll add it to this product page. That's a good note for later. Give me a second here. I'm just going to update my thing here. Amazon. Need to add Netgear PoE switch. Okay. It's got to add it to my Amazon video review thing there. Okay. All right. We're good. By the way, have I told you how much I love this MacBook Air? This thing is the best. I can't tell you how fast this thing is for the stuff that I do. It's been wonderful. Okay. We are good. Let me go back to here. It was weird that the Amazon thing froze up on me. It's never done that before. Okay, so now we are going to run the test again, and we're going to start with client to server. And yes, we did cover in the last clip. Yeah, we did that, and I think I showed the, yep, good. Okay. 3, 2, 1. So let's get that test going. 3, 2, 1. So let's click the Run Test button here. We're going to have data sent from my computer here on the desk upstairs to the Mac on the network. And as you can see here, we're doing better. We're not getting gigabit speeds out of this, but we're getting probably about 200 or 300 megabits more, give or take, than what we were getting on the AC side. And the other advantage you get with Wi-Fi 6 is that you can support more devices simultaneously. They're good for load balance. That's not a good thing to say. Let me start that again. I'm starting to blabber, and when I start blabbering, I don't like what I do. So let me kill this one. It was a good test too, but I want to get it right. 3, 2, 1. So let's hit that. So let's hit the Run Test button now and see how this comes together. And we're now, of course, on the Wi-Fi 6 access point. And as you can see here, our bandwidth going from the client, the computer here on the desk, to the one upstairs, we're getting better speeds. Not gigabit speeds here, but we're doing anywhere from 200 or 300 megabits more. And you can see a couple of dips here and there, but generally we're in the 500 to 600 megabit territory here, and that is really, really good. Again, this is going from the computer on the desk here to the access point and then upstairs through my Ethernet network. Now let's reverse it and have the access point transmit data back to the laptop here on the desk and see how we do there, just to get an idea as to the symmetry of this connection. And here again, you can see we're doing about half a gigabit or so. So definitely an improvement here. Certainly not gigabit speed, but it is running better. One of the other advantages of Wi-Fi 6 is that they are better at supporting multiple devices that are connected to those Wi-Fi 6 access points. So you'll see better performance consistency and better bandwidth as well. And we'll have to see if that long-range device that they make gives us better bandwidth beyond what we just got here. That one does have a 4x4 radio configuration versus 2x2 with this one, but overall I'm pleased that I'm seeing a bit of a performance bump here, and I'll be able to take advantage of my connection a little bit better than I was before when I'm on Wi-Fi. Okay, so I think that'll work. What do you all think of that clip? Let me know how that sounded to you all. And I'll wait for that for a second. Yeah, I'm going to use the iPhone. So let's connect that. Now, I don't have an iPerf test on the iPhone. I could probably find one, but I want to do something else. I want to connect to the speedtest.net thing here. And let's see what we get on that. Look at that. And that's my internet test. That's pretty good. The upload, I'm trying to make sure it doesn't show my IP address. That's really good, actually. So maybe I'll cut back to this also. That was good. So let me zoom in on that screen real quick. Let's see to get this focused in here. Sorry, I was going to a little focus. There we go. Okay. Okay, so that was about a 2-minute run. Oops, let me add that to the list here. So this is the speed test. iPerf. And yeah, the iPhone may have a better radio there. John has to go. Thank you very much for stopping in and offering your input to us here. Appreciate it. And Michael Kidd here says you'll never achieve more than, that's right, because it's the duplexing, right? So it's a half duplex medium. Good point. So we're getting the advertised speed out of it then, aren't we? That's a very good point. I totally forgot about that. Okay. And let's see if I can do an iPerf test on here. I don't think I have. So the other problem is that Wi-Fi perf on the, oh, I can get the endpoint, I think, for this. Let me see what we can find here. Yeah, it does have an endpoint. Okay, good. So we could do that real quick. All right, so it's ready for a connection. So let's try that real quick. And I'll connect up to the one upstairs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it. And I'll show you what it's going to give us here. So I'm going to disconnect it because I'm going to connect up, actually, you know what I'll do? I can connect with my Mac over there so that we're not, so I don't want to use the Wi-Fi to view the screen because we'll eat into the performance, right? So let me get my Mac here unlocked. And let me go to the Mac upstairs. And what I'll do, let me just get the IP address of this thing here. So this is, I'm just writing down my local IP. So it's 192.168.2.92. So it's got like a little Wi-Fi server, Wi-Fi perf server working on this one. So let's go back to the computer on the other side of the room there. And I'll be right back. I think the antennas on that little iPhone are better. So bear with me, folks, for 1 second here. All right, so we're going to run that test real quick and see what we get. Yeah, it's going to about 500. It's odd. I'm actually getting better speeds out to the internet than I am within my home network, which is weird. So here, check it out. You can see this is as the receiver. Isn't that crazy? So about what we were seeing before. So let me go switch the direction real quick and see if that does better. And I'm just going to put the phone into. Oops. Hang on 1 second here, folks. All right, I think we're getting there. Okay, let me stop that test real quick. And we will. Okay, so let's stop the test going in that direction. And then we'll go the other way. Oops. So this was client to server. So now we'll have the server go to the client. So a second ago there, the iPhone was transmitting upstairs. And let's go and do, all right, let me just do a quick little shot of this so I have it. I mean, roughly the same as what we had before. Okay, so let's go back here. I'm going to add that as B-roll. And then I'm going to go back and start the test again and see what we get. All right, so now this is client, server to client. And I'll run back over there and show you in a second, but we are getting, wow, 655. Yeah, so it's working pretty good. Okay, so now check it out. Not bad. So we're doing a little better, I think, on the phone versus the computer. It might just be it has a better line of sight because the computer's in a slightly different spot. So let's record here, 3, 2, 1. And I've got my iPhone set up now doing the same test, and as you can see, we're doing a little better here on the iPhone 12 Pro, but I suspect it's because I've got a better line of sight to the access point. It's on the same table as my MacBook is right now, but it's in a different position where it doesn't have things in the way. And you can see just the positioning of things sometimes can make things better, and sometimes the antennas on some of these devices might do better as well. But all in, we're getting some pretty decent performance out of this. And one of the viewers in my chat pointed out that Wi-Fi is not measured in a full duplex way. So if we're getting 600 and change on a single direction here, we're pretty much maxing out the connection. So it looks like we're getting the most that we can here out of the Wi-Fi 6 on this initial testing. What I'll also do here is pull up my Wi-Fi. Actually, I'm going to do this again. That was a good take. I think what I'll do, let me check that comment, because that was a good comment that was made before. Maybe I'll actually pull the comment up here. Let me see what I said, because I think that might work. Yeah, we can go back here and just want to wait for the number to. It's funny, where it is on the desk actually makes a difference. Yeah, it's weird. It's like where it is on the desk actually makes a difference here. So let me do that take again. 3, 2, 1. And I also figured I would take out my iPhone here and just see how it does with this same iPerf test. And as you can see, we're getting really good speeds here, a little above 600 megabits per second in one direction. And in this case, the phone is transmitting to the access point and then it's going upstairs. And this phone is doing a little bit better than the MacBook is doing here on the same desk, although it has a clear line of sight to the access point, whereas the MacBook has a couple things in the way that might be impeding the signal a bit. So really, the positioning that you're in makes a big difference here. Also wanted to point out a comment that came in during my live stream here from Michael Kidd, who noted that anything higher, you won't really see much. Let me start this again. Let me go and just check. That was a good take, more or less, so I want to bring in Michael's comment because I think that's important to point out, that you're not going to get gigabit. And let's run this real quick and just see how we did here. 3, 2, 1. And I also figured I would take out my iPhone here and just see how it does with this same iPerf test. And as you can see, we're getting really good speeds here, a little above 600 megabits per second in one direction. And in this case, the phone is transmitting to the access point and then it's going upstairs. And this phone is doing a little bit better than the MacBook is doing here on the same desk, although it has a clear line of sight to the access point, whereas the MacBook has a couple things in the way that might be impeding the signal a bit. So really, the positioning that you're in makes a big difference here. Okay, so we're gonna cut it at makes a big difference here. If you heard an echo, it's just because it's coming back in over my mic. All right, now I'm going to position this mouse right on the 1 here, and hopefully this will work when I'm talking about it. Yes. Yeah, I was replaying with a hot mic, so don't worry about the echo. Okay, so we're going to bring Michael's comment in as I'm talking. So I'm going to talk, I'm going to hit the button. So I have to look up and hit the button, make sure I don't touch the mouse position. And that will get Michael's comment in here. All right, so Michael says, yeah, 3, 2, 1. And the speeds we're getting here, I think, mean that we're maxing out the access point. And I want to bring up a comment here that came in during my live stream. Also wanted to point out, oh, shoot, wrong camera. 1 second. That's the right camera. That's the one we want. Okay, sorry, I just went back to the recording because the recording has the same image as we have here. Okay, here we go. And I ended on the screen, so we're going to come back to me. 3, 2, 1. And based on what I'm seeing here on the iPhone, I think we're maxing out what the access point is capable of. And you might be saying, well, Lon, it's 1.2 gigabits that it's advertised as, but you're only getting about 600 megabits. And the reason is that, and Michael Kidd was in our chat room here. Let me start this again. I think I know where I'm going with this. Okay. See, this is why when I get later in the day, my ability to talk. So if I don't get my videos done by like 2:30, 3 o'clock, it's just bad. So let's try this again. 3, 2, 1. So it looks like we're getting pretty much the maximum performance out of this access point right now. And you might be saying, well, Lon, this thing is advertised at 1.2 gigabits. Why are we only getting 600 megabits here at the max? And I want to pull up a comment that came in during the live stream from Michael Kidd, who notes that Wi-Fi is a half duplex medium. So you get 600 and change in one direction and 600 and change in the other. And we're kind of seeing that here as we're testing. So I think we're getting what is advertised out of this. And that long-range Wi-Fi device might do a little bit better. And when it comes out, maybe we'll get one in and play around with it. And now I'm going to cut back to the phone because we have the results of that speed test that we did as well. So let me go back to this one. And these videos tend to be more conversational than product-y. Because I want to point out the issues we had with the injector as well. So that's something we're going to want to look at. Gary Johnson wants to know the distance to the access point. So I would say, probably about 15 feet. It's up in the ceiling. I'm looking at it like right here. So I could even show you, if I can pull up the, let me get this one shot done here and I can show you where it is. This is 11 iPhone iPerf. I just want to watch this and make sure it's okay with me. I'll turn the mic off. 3, 2, 1. So it looks like we're getting pretty much the maximum performance out of this access point right now. And you might be saying, well, Lon, this thing is advertised at 1.2 gigabits. Why are we only getting 600 megabits here at the max? And I want to pull up a comment that came in during the live stream from Michael Kidd, who notes that Wi-Fi is a half duplex medium. So you get 600 and change in one direction and 600 and change in the other. And we're kind of seeing that here as we're testing. So I think we're getting what is advertised out of this. And that long-range Wi-Fi device might do a little bit better. And when it comes out, maybe we'll get one in and play around with it. All right, you watch my still frame there. I'm good. Let me go back to the speed test that I ran. So I think that might be interesting to show. Yeah, maybe I'll drop that whole part there. I think it's some discussion about it's not symmetrically half duplex. What I'm trying to do is, because here's the point. Yeah, so there's some discussion about this not being the case. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to drop that whole section. I think what I'm going to do here is just go to what I'm seeing out of it. Because I think what needs to be discussed, this is what I'm trying to get at. I think what needs to get discussed here is, and maybe I'll run the test directly under the access point, and that might be a good compromise. What I think needs to be discussed here is why is it not getting to 1.2 gigabits, or even a gigabit? Why are we not getting that? And there's a whole host of reasons why, right? So let me just run this, I'm going to go stand right underneath it, and let's see what I get on it. And I'll move this camera down. Let me just run it real quick and see what it looks like. So I'm like right underneath it now. I got the phone in my hand. I just want to see what we're going to get on the max. Yeah, so it's pushing like 680, 690. This is the internet speed test. So right underneath it, I'm at 702 on the download. And the upload is like 616. So maybe a fun thing will just be like right underneath it. What I need to figure out here is how do we explain the fact that we're not getting gigabit? That's the question. And I guess it's just that Wi-Fi always has overhead, right? So that could be very much the reason there. So, all right, I'm going to just put this over here so we don't have ads running on the thing the whole time. All right. Because they have this ad that runs here. I guess I could take a screenshot of it. Let me do that real quick. And then I don't have to look at the ad. Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, so I think we'll just point out the fact that, you know, you're not going to get the gigabit, right? So let me drop that 11, clip 11 here, because it just gets into the weeds. And I understand, I think it's important to point out this, and this comes back to the same issues we've been dealing with Wi-Fi all along, that you never get the full thing there. So, okay, so we had iPhone, cut that, make a difference here. Let me just check this one clip out. Oops. Sorry, everybody. I'm just trying to get organized here to figure out the rest of this shoot here. 3, 2, 1. So it looks like we're getting pretty much the maximum performance that is advertised out of this. I'm not frozen. I was just trying to remember where I left off. Megabits here at the max, and I want to pull up a comment getting 600 megabits here at the max. So I had it cutting at, makes a difference here. Hang on a sec. I'm just trying to figure out exact. You know, I'm going to drop this one too. We don't need this one because we have the iPerf test on the computer, and then I ran another one on the iPhone, and that's how we're going to do it. So let's drop that. Let's change the AC6. And this is how it gets made, folks. You know, you kind of throw away some stuff that you do, keep other stuff. Okay. So let's go back to the last clip that we have, which is 9, which is the other iPerf test. So let's hit the Run Test button now and see how this comes together. We're better at supporting multiple devices that are a bit of a performance bump here, and I'll be able to take advantage of my connection a little bit better than I was before when I'm on Wi-Fi. Right, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do the test that we ran on the iPhone, and then I'm going to talk about the issue with the injector. Okay. And Gary Johnson thinks that 700 to 800 megabits is probably about the max we'll get out of this thing. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, I wanted more than what I was getting, which I'm getting. So I think that's what I was after here. Handquake wants to know what the ping is. That's a good question. So, the ping on the internet out to the Comcast server in Boston, which I think is what we're on here, was 8 milliseconds. Which is about 2 milliseconds more than what I get on Ethernet. So there you go. Okay, so we're going to go. I'm just going to kind of wrap this up because we could test and nitpick this thing to death. The reality is, like, this is what you're going to see. Let's see. Yeah, and then another comment here that you could get 75% of your link speed. I mean, it's like one of these things where there's so many factors. Like, what's nice about fiber and Ethernet is that when you plug it in, you get the speed. If you don't get the speed, something's wrong with you. Wi-Fi, it's a whole other story. There's so many things that can impact it. And you know, you've got even your neighbors impact your Wi-Fi signaling too. Like when I go to my dad's place, he has a place in the city, in New York, and in Manhattan, forget it. Like, you go to connect to Wi-Fi, there's like a gazillion access points. There's so much interference. It's like almost unusable. Okay, so we ended on the test. And we'll go to my iPhone on the overhead. And we'll go from there. All right, 3, 2, 1. And I also took out my iPhone 12 Pro, and I kind of got into a close proximity to the access point up there on the ceiling. And as you can see here, we were getting speeds back and forth to the internet, 702 megabits downstream and 606, let me start that again, 3, 2, 1. And I also took out my iPhone 12 Pro, and we got very close to the access point, no obstructions in the middle of it. And here we got download speeds back and forth to the internet at 702 on the downstream and 616 on the upstream, so that was pretty good. The ping here out to their server in Boston was 8 milliseconds. Usually on Ethernet here it's about 4 to 6, so not all that much on the latency side either. And I was very pleased with the overall performance I'm getting from this particular access point. Now there are other ones out there that have more radios and more bandwidth, so we should probably get one of those in at some point in the future to see if having a 4x4 access point makes a difference versus a 2x2. But I wanted a little bump in speed. I got it here, and when the new one comes out, we'll check that one out and see if having those 2 extra radios will make a bigger difference here in our overall throughput. But again, we're doing better than we were on AC, and that was the objective. One other thing to note is that I did have some issues with the PoE injector that I was using. So what I ended up doing was switching over to a PoE switch, and that fixed a lot of some of the bandwidth issues I was having initially with it. So I would probably suggest, if you can, hook it up to a PoE switch versus just an injector, and that should give you the full performance. We'll probably be coming back to this at some point in the near future, but right now it's up on the ceiling, very easy to install. We got a nice performance boost for the Wi-Fi 6 devices that we have here in the house, and we'll be back again with more adventures in home networking as things develop here at the house. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. I think that worked, everybody. Because you have like the 2x2 and the 4x4, and you know, it's just this stuff can go on forever. Let me play that back real quick and see how that looks. So 10, speed test and conclusion. And that's the one thing that I run into, because like consumers, this is what's interesting, is when you're talking to consumers and you're talking about Wi-Fi, you know, they want to know about range. What's the range of it? And the reality is that the range differences are, in my opinion, in my experience, have been very minimal. And give me 1 second here. All right, let's play this back real quick and just see how this came together. Sorry, everybody. You have to bear with me as I do my thing here. 3, 2, 1. And I also took out my iPhone 12 Pro, and we got very close to the access point, no obstructions in the middle of it. And here we got download speeds back and forth to the internet at 702 on the downstream and 616 on the upstream, so that was pretty good. The ping here out to their server in Boston was 8 milliseconds. Usually on Ethernet here it's about 4 to 6, so not all that much on the latency side either. And I was very pleased with the overall performance I'm getting from this particular access point. Now there are other ones out there that have more radios and more bandwidth, so we should probably get one of those in at some point in the future to see if having a 4x4 access point makes a difference versus a 2x2. But I wanted a little bump in speed. I got it here. And when the new one comes out, we'll check that one out and see if having those 2 extra radios will make a bigger difference here in our overall throughput. But again, we're doing better than we were on AC, and that was the objective. One other thing to note is that I did have some issues with the PoE injector that I was using. So what I ended up doing was switching over to a PoE switch, and that fixed a lot of some of the bandwidth issues I was having initially with it. So I would probably suggest, if you can, hook it up to a PoE switch versus just an injector, and that should give you the full performance. We'll probably be coming back to this at some point in the near future, but right now it's up on the ceiling, very easy to install. We got a nice performance boost for the Wi-Fi 6 devices that we have here in the house, and we'll be back again with more adventures in home networking as things develop here at the house. That's going to do it for now. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. All right, I can live with that. So we'll go from there. Yeah, this access point is $100. So the lights are $100. The long range ones with more bandwidth are $200, but those aren't available yet. So that's why I didn't get that one. So that is that. I'm just going through some of the comments here to see what I missed. Um, let's go through the rest of these here. Yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm good on this one. Yeah, we could test multiple devices and all this other stuff, and you know, what I wanted to see was what was the maximum throughput with one device connected. So, you know, the reality would be if we added a second one, it would have it. You know, it would just drop it in half. So I think we're good there. And yeah, this is pretty good for a phone, right? Like, good stuff. Yeah, so this was fun. And it's working. It was pretty easy to get it going too. That's what I like about the Unifi stuff, is that you know, here's what's so cool about this, is that I have a configuration for my Wi-Fi in the house, right? So, and this might be how other systems work, I don't know, because this is the one I've been using for the last 5 years. But I've got VLANs on these things. I've got, you know, multiple configurations based on the frequency of the radio. So I actually have a separate SSID for 2 gigahertz versus the 5, right? So plug this thing in, and once it's provisioned, it adopts the default configuration. So it just works. So when I provisioned it, you know, it is configured exactly the same way the other one was. I don't have to do anything. You know, if you want to do something and change how that one works, you can go in and make some adjustments to it, and that's why that one works a lot better. And Barnabas says, do I have the new MacBook Pro? No, I have the Air. So I don't know if the Air has a 2x2 radio on it. And I'm missing all the Amazon comments. I just realized the Amazon chat has been off. Sorry, everybody. Has been off for the last couple of minutes here. Let me go jump back into the session here and see what I missed. So David's devices have been very bad to you today. And there we go. So Tim IT Tech was wondering what app on the iPhone did I use. So I was using, let me pull this comment down first so I don't confuse people. There's this Wi-Fi Perf app that I'm using on the Mac, which is unfortunately no longer available. They have an endpoint app available, which is what we were just running here. And this sets up an iPerf server on your phone, so you can connect to the phone that way, and that's what we were connecting with. Joe wants to know how much for the original Zelda on the thing. That's priceless. That one's my wife's, actually. You know what's funny is that when we plugged that into an NES a few years ago, her save game from the 80s was still on it. The battery hadn't died yet. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, it was good stuff. But we've been at this for a while now, haven't we? I think I've been going since like 1:30 or 2 o'clock or something. I don't know. It's been good. The good news is that all of the physical connection stuff I didn't screw up this time. It was all in the software, so that was fun. Yeah, the iPhone Pro I think has 4x4 AC radio. Jimmy says multiple clients will not chop it in half. So you want to try that real quick? We can try it real quick. Let's see. I just don't know if I have, I'm just trying to think about how I can engineer this. I can make this work. So let me set up Wi-Fi Perf on here, which is running. So let me get all the IP addresses set up here. And we'll just push down a bunch of data from the access point to them individually and see what happens. And you're going to have to take my word at what I see here, because I don't have the ability at the moment to give you multiple views, because I have to re-engineer a whole bunch of stuff for that to work. So I'm just going to go in and put in some of these numbers here. So we're going to have an endpoint be the computer, and an endpoint be the Mac I've got on the other table over there. So the iPhone is that address, and then this one is... Okay, so those are the two. And what I'm going to do is run over... Actually, I could have the server here. See, it's not going to tell you everything at the same time. So let me go back to the endpoint here. All right, give me a second. I'm going to have data pushed down from the access point to devices, okay? And we're going to run them both at the same time. So I'm just going to have the Mac here get started with that, because I have to run it a couple of different ways here. So I'm just thinking out loud here how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to have server to client. Okay, so we're going to run that. I'm going to run this test for like a long time. So we're going to start with the MacBook Air on this one. I'm just trying to think how we're going to do the second one. Okay, so I'm going to run the other one from here. Okay, so we'll start that test. All right, so we've got it going to the Mac. And now what I'm going to do is load it up on, I have like Macs all over the house, which is one good thing about having Macs everywhere. So now I'm going to load up Wi-Fi perf on this machine. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to send data to the iPhone. I'm going to run this one for 340, and let's run the test. And the good thing is we'll have a good idea as to what the bandwidth is. And I'm going to put everything back in the same place so we can get a good feel for it. All right, so we have data coming. Let me just make sure I got data going in the right direction here. So the phone here, it's going from, oh, wrong direction. Hang on a second. We need to go from, let me stop this real quick. We're going to go from server to client, right? And the other one should be server to client. Yeah, okay, so we're server to client on both. So what's happening here is that in both cases we are sending data from the access point to the host device. All right, so it looks like, yeah, it kind of drops in half between the two. And then I got to run, because I got to get dog walked, children fed, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's look at the computer screen. So right now the test is running. And what are we getting at this moment? Yep, so there we go. So you can see we're getting about 300 and change on the computer, sometimes 400. And if we go to my overhead view, this is what the phone is getting. So it's about half. It's splitting it up between the two. You can see down there towards the bottom. The computer's doing a little better than the phone is doing. And again, it's all going from the access point to the devices here. It's about 300 here and about 300 on this one. So about what you would expect if you were curious. So pretty good. All right, does that answer the question, hopefully? So yeah, it's about, it's splitting it up. And you can see it here. So if I go back in the log, so this log is of the server running the test, right? So check it out. So we started it before the iPhone started, right? And then once the iPhone started, boom, it cuts it in half, which you would expect. So, we only have so much bandwidth in that direction. So, but no, it seems to be working fine. Again, I think and this might be the argument for the long-range one, right? Because it has double the bandwidth in both directions, which is why it only has gigabit Ethernet. I'll have to clarify that in the video. So there you go. And Jay Rose says, wait, I have life stuff to do. Yeah. It's funny. I was talking to my wife about this the other night because I am usually in good shape to get my work done until about 5:30, 6 o'clock or so. And then it's dinner time. And then like the hard part is getting from dinner time to bedtime is like this gargantuan journey every evening. Because the children, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And so they don't go to bed on their own. And left to their own devices, they would just wander the house all night, So, hey, Barnabas, thank you very much for helping us out today. Appreciate it. So it's been a fun stream today. So the challenge, like last night, and then last night we had to give them a bath. So we had dinner, bath, bedtime. But see, bedtime is a ritual. It's not like, so me as an adult, I'm tired, I go to bed. That's it. Conk out. Maybe I watch a little TV or something before I go to sleep. The children, no. It is bath, PJs, teeth brushing. You have to guide them through all of it right now. Like they can do it, but they just don't unless you push them. And then you got to go from the teeth brushing to the to the PJs or vice versa. And then you got the story. You got to read. Reading's important, so we read. And now my 7-year-old is reading, so she reads to us, and then one of us reads to the 4-year-old, and then. You know what I mean? And by the time you get them into bed, it's just like, oh my goodness. So, it's like you're exhausted. So it'll get easier. But then they'll be teenagers. So, I kind of don't want this period of time to end. But I was saying to my wife, think about what did we do at night before we had kids? Like I would get home from work if I didn't have a meeting or something. You had hours to just do whatever. And now there's no time at night because it's this whole thing. So it was crazy. Okay, so one-man show. Okay, we'll do this one for you, one-man show, because I just did the wrong, right. So I think I know what you're getting at here. Hit the wrong button. So I will run one more test, and this time we will have the reverse, right. We'll see if we can get the bandwidth in both directions. Okay, so let me go back, and I will have one go in one direction and the other go in the other direction. Be right back. So let's see if we can get a maximum out of it there. Okay, so I'm going to stop both tests. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this one go client to server and the other one go the other way. So we're going to run the test here, run the test there. Okay, so we're going. Oh, one of them is refusing. Which one's refusing? The iPhone, because I forgot to load up the iPerf server again. Let me go do that real quick. Okay, and we're gonna get this figured out. So iPerf endpoint. All right, so now we're back up. I'll go to the log here. Let me go run back over to the computer. Start the test again, and we'll see what we get on. This actually might be a good thing to slip in there. At the end, just to make sure that we're able to get the full amount here. So one is going server to client, and the other one is going client to server. And oddly, it's actually doing worse than it was before. So here's the, so that is that one. Let me clear the log here. So you can see what we're getting there, about less than 100 megabits. And this one is going, so in this case, the iPhone is broadcasting and the computer is receiving. So we're getting kind of the same, let me pull the graphic off screen here. We're kind of getting the same thing we had before when everything was going in the same direction, although now it's picking up. And it might be because it's still going. Okay, so now the iPhone's doing a little bit better. Yes, it's all over the place. This is why Wi-Fi is so hard to test, because who knows what just happened. Maybe my kid walked over, you know what I mean? Like it literally is that. Like the kid walks over and the iPad connects to this thing, and then all of a sudden you're SOL. So let me go and look at the Unifi system here and see if the U6 Lite has got any more users on board. Nope, it doesn't. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so it's, and you know what, I don't want to definitively say that that was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the cause of that was just a minute ago. So I'm going to be kind of rolling with it. Okay. Here's a good one from J. Rose. What if you dropped it in the toilet? Yeah, then it would be all, actually, believe it or not, these phones do pretty well in the toilet now. At least the more expensive ones do. All right, Well, I am going to call it a night because I got to get stuff going. I accomplished what I wanted to do, which was let's look at the basics here. Is the thing that that most consumers, not us techies, because look, when I want fast performance, I plug into Ethernet, especially now with my 2 gigabit connection here. So you can never get the full deal out of it. And what I was looking for was a speed bump. Got the speed bump. I'm good with that. So DBETS here says, in summation, is it worth it to go to Wi-Fi 6? I think so. The big test will be how the 4x4 access point does versus the 2x2. That's the big question. So I think the answer here is that if you want a dramatic improvement over what you have with AC, is you probably want to get the 4x4. That's my hypothesis based on what we discovered today. So I think that's how it's going to go. All right, so I've got to run because it's time. I got to get a few things wrapped up before the end of the day here. But this was good. I got what I wanted to get done. And this is going to be one of those videos that I think generates like some really good questions. I've already gotten a lot from you all in the chat room, so that's been great. And so what I think is going to happen as a result of this video is that I'm going to get more questions. I'm going to get, you didn't do this right, or you didn't do that right. So that kind of stuff will be helpful in seeing how the viewers react to it. And that's one of those things where, by the way, Jay Rose, thank you for your super chat. It didn't show up in my system when you gave it. It doesn't do this all the time on my other thing here, so I appreciate your super chat. So it's it's so difficult to get a good measurement of Wi-Fi because it's so conditional. There's so many things that can happen. It's such a pain, which is why, coming back to my point I was making earlier, consumers have this expectation of range and speed, and when they go beyond the range of their Wi-Fi, they blame the Wi-Fi thing when it's actually the fact that it's just physics, right? Like you could put another one in. So in my experience, no matter which one you get, it's marginal on the range because there's stuff in your walls, there's things that block everything. And so when it comes to these things, what I like about the Unifis is that they're inexpensive, so you just get a bunch of them, and wherever you get a dead spot, you stick one up, and then you don't have a dead spot anymore. You got to home run it with some Ethernet or whatever, or Mocha, and get it back to your thing. And what I say to people is, don't try to get some crazy thing that advertises all this range, because it's kind of BS. Like, just get more of these access points and stick them up where you have weak points. And if you're doing it right, what you do is you adjust the signal strength on them all. Like there's some things that you can do to more easily deal with the handoff. And I found that some devices hand off better than others. So in the case of, by the way, I just closed the Amazon thing for a while again. Sorry, everybody. In the case of the, what are they talking about? Oh, like case of the Nintendo Switch, for example, it doesn't hand off that easily. So it's one of those things where, like the Switch, I have to manually reconnect it to Wi-Fi because it hangs on to the Wi-Fi signal no matter how weak it gets. And I'm sure that they have done that on purpose because they know from their consumer research that most people are in a house with one access point, right? And so when that signal gets too weak, it just doesn't let go of it because it just figures that, that's just the house that it's in, right? So the Mac I found and the iPhone are really good, and my Android phones too, to be fair, and my Windows machines actually, now that I think about it, most things that I have that are current do a pretty good job of dropping the weaker access point and connecting to the stronger one. But that's a function of the operating system, not the access point. So the access point, you can have it drop a client if it gets too weak, and that's a feature that you can do on the Unifi. You can set a kind of like a signal to noise number that if you hit that number, it drops the client. And when it drops the client is then going to try to reconnect to the strongest SSID, or the SSID with the strongest signal that it knows. So that's one way you could go about doing it. I haven't done that just because when I tried it, it was flaky, and I didn't want to mess with it. So I just kind of deal with it. But for the most part, the Macs and the Windows and the Android devices that I've tested, the nicer ones, do a better job of that thing. Trent Curtis here says the good whatever rule of thumb is about 10 decibel loss per wall. And I would say that's probably true for standard drywall and stuff. I used to set these things up in warehouses, and you had cardboard boxes, and those are really bad. And then it's like whatever's in the cardboard boxes, it impacts it further, right? So it depends on, like what we found was in the warehouse, depending on the inventory that we had at that point in that section of the warehouse, the signal would be different, right? If you had certain types of material in a box, it was one thing, and then, so that was tricky. We ended up switching to Unifi all over the place. They were great. What else impacted it? Water, like bathtubs, I don't know, water beds, those impact it. So it's tough. It's really tough. So yeah, it's tricky. And then, hey, in the Amazon chat says, we see your DJI drones. You know what's funny? I don't know why it's on the floor here, but I actually have my DJI Mini here if you want to see it real quick. I have to cut back my drone fleet. I have drones that I'm not using. So this is my this is a chat request from the Amazon chat. So this is my Mini. This has been replaced now by the Mini 2 a year later, which has a 4K camera. It's much better. Yeah, the drop ceiling down here makes life a lot easier. Upstairs, I don't have any drop ceiling, so I have, believe it or not, I just have the access points just laying flat, which is probably not the best thing, but I don't have signal strength issues. And again, what's weird is that the one in the basement here on the drop ceiling, when I am upstairs in the kitchen, which is directly above where I'm sitting right now, in fact, I had a leak. We had a long story, faucet issue, ceiling got drippy. But in the kitchen, right above where the access point is, that's what I usually connect to when I'm sitting at the kitchen counter up there, my little breakfast counter. So, yep. So, any event, that's where we're at. So now I've got to go and get my PoE switch on the rack in there and get all that going. But for now, we are in good shape. D-bets, oh yeah, plaster walls are the worst. So if you have an old house with plaster walls, forget it. Like you may as well just put an access point in every room. The plaster just eats those signals up. And the other thing is, back to this Wi-Fi 6 stuff, 5 gigahertz doesn't go as far as 2.4. So your 2.4 is going to go longer, but it's slower, right? The 5 doesn't go as far. And it doesn't take long to see your bandwidth drop off the further you get away. So you really want to have, ideally, if you're in a commercial environment, you probably want to have somebody come in and do a proper site survey to not only look at where the best placements are, but also what ambient interference you're going to have as well. So there's a whole science to this stuff. It's radio. That's why, like, honestly, if you want, yeah, here, Lawrence Systems did a whole thing on Wi-Fi planning. Good, because I'll never do that. About roaming and Wi-Fi planning. So I would check, that's a good channel to check out. Because you got to think about all that stuff, especially in a commercial environment. At home, you can play around with it and try to figure it out. And what's fun about the home environment, especially with the Unifi gear, is that you can learn about, because the Unifi gear lets you tweak everything, and that's why I like it so much. So you could, you could set these things up and just tweak every access point and see what different settings will do to impact you and stuff. And that's why I like these a lot, because you don't break the bank. You're not buying like this super high-end, heavy metal, expensive stuff. You've got stuff that's affordable, that works well in a home environment, and it works well enough in the default setting to get started, and then you can start tweaking things and see what impact that has on your configuration. So there's that. Trent brings up tin. Yeah, if you got those tin ceilings, another thing you'll find in older houses, that'll be a nice little Faraday cage for you there too. So yeah, good stuff. All right, I got to run, everybody. I appreciate you all greatly, especially on this video. And I knew I would get a lot of great help from you all, so thank you for that. And Jay Rose, thank you for the, oh, so I see what happened here. So when you do a super sticker, it doesn't show up on my vMix social. This is a vMix social that I use for, this connects up with my video system so I can drop in your comments. And that is why I didn't see your contribution. So, in any event, that is where we're going to go. Okay, so I am going to get going here. Jorge says he needs those monitors back there for max performance. Yeah, so these are actually computers behind me. It's an Apple IIgs. That's my original from 87, 88. And then there's a Mac SE30 that I bought a little while ago. So I'll have to check out that Lawrence Systems video because I always like watching that stuff. I like to watch people who are much better at things than I am. And he does a lot of Unifi for those who are not familiar. So yeah, good stuff. Yeah, I'm like on the edge of where like Unifi works because I am a consumer kind of person. I would say I am a prosumer, and I did work in IT, but I didn't get into a lot of the nitty-gritty on network configurations like with this stuff. And that's what I like about the Unifi. Again, you can set it up and just leave it at default, and it's going to work for the most part. But that's where you can start learning on these. If you really want to get into networking, I like the Unifi a lot for that because the conventions as to how you configure things and all the basics of networking are industry standards. So you can really tweak things a lot. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so, and there's another comment here from Colby who worked at I can't even imagine how hard it's going to be as a cable call center. And the Radon was outside their mobile home, the Radon was inside the mobile home. Exactly, like this is the tricky thing with this stuff is that I think there's an assumption on the part of consumers that Wi-Fi works just like your phone works. Like you turn it on and it gets a signal. But unlike your phone, you're responsible for getting the signal to your phone in the house. And people buy the Wi-Fi access point. Usually, like in the case of my house, your cable is terminating in a basement room somewhere. So your Wi-Fi is in the basement, and it works fine maybe on the first floor. But when you get up to the second floor or out in one of the further outreaches of the house, it doesn't work. And for a while, I actually had just that set up here. I knew what I had. And it was good enough for the rooms that I sat in, but then we had a guest come over and they couldn't get on the guest network. So, that's why I started putting up these Unifi access points all over the place, and it's been great. It's been really good. So, yeah. So when you want range, get more access points, and there's some great consumer mesh systems that can help you with that. But I do prefer to run home runs all the way back. Mocha is a great way to do the home runs to get your wired connection back. So there you go. And as Trent says, it's all magic. Exactly. That's it. I'm going to end on that note. It is all magic. So good stuff. All right. Thank you for the kind comments there, Jassy S. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. And I will be back with another one of these streams before you know it. I think we were going for a long time on this one. I don't even know how long. But yeah, I'm hungry. We had some dinner. Actually, not quite dinner time yet. And we'll go from there. So thank you all for